Hey guys, I'm Daniel Norton. I'm here in my home. During this time, we want to try to keep on create no matter what. So I thought I'd do a little video here to kind of show you guys what you might be able to do with things you have around the house. So what I've got, I have my subject. He's quite beautiful, Uncle Leo. So I've got Uncle Leo, and I'm going to make some shots of him. I often get asked in my videos to do full-length shots, so we'll do some full-length shots of Uncle Leo. But what I'm going to use is just, I actually have some lights with me, but I know a lot of you maybe don't have your full lighting kits or maybe don't have a full lighting kit. But hopefully you have at least one light. I'm just going to use a speed light, small flash. This is a Profoto A1, but it could be any small flash should apply to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to use, various things. Coming with the flash, I got this little shoe so I can set it up. I may try to hold it in my hand for some too. We'll see. We'll play around. But I'm basically going to use things that I got from my cupboard, things I got from around the house, and we'll experiment with various different types of things. So let me just go over the basic setup though. I've got my Nikon on a tripod. Whenever I shoot product, I try to shoot on a tripod. Clearly, you can not shoot on a tripod if you don't want to. And it's going to basically be pointed into this corner. I do have a window behind me, but because I'm using flash, it's not really going to be a problem, which I'll show you in a second. And I am tethered. I always tether. I like to tether. It's fun. I can see it right away. So I've got my computer over here tethered into Capture One. The very first thing I'm going to do, as always, is I'm going to make a shot with no flash. I've got my shutter speed set at 1/160th of a second. I've got my ISO at 100, and I'm shooting at f4. The reason why I'm shooting at f4 is I think that's going to be fine to get rid of all the light and space. And because I'm using a small flash, I don't want to overtax it. So let's shoot that frame. And yeah, we got a black frame. So the frame is completely black. As we normally do, I'm just going to come over and quickly take a peek at it and make sure it's actually black. The way I do that is I grab my exposure slider, pull it over until I start to see him. Yeah, I'm a good 2 stops under. So even with the window, and I have actually my chandelier lights pointed at me here, he's completely gone. Like there's no exposure there. And I'll show you now with the flash, if I just turn the flash on. This is just using TTL, which means through the lens metering. And if I just point the flash at Uncle Leo, and I take a shot, we'll see now that, there he is, ugly light. He's beautiful, but some ugly light. So let's play around with this now and see if we can make this nicer. Okay, so since I'm just working with this flash and I don't want to, use light stands or whatever, I don't have light stands, we'll say, I could just put it on this little shoe that I have, right, and just kind of put it right here next to Uncle Leo. And what's cool about this is, right, it will stand there and I can actually make a photo. And again, I'm in TTL, so when I make a photo, that's fine. But let's look at the direction of light, right? Direction of light is one of the very first things we want to think about when we're lighting something. You want to think about a lot of things, which we'll talk about. But so for direction of light, the light's kind of underneath him, which isn't necessarily ideal unless you're going for like a horror thing. And, Uncle Leo being very super glamorous, I don't really want a horror look for him. So what we want to do is change the direction of light, not have it come from underneath. And of course, I could hold it in my hand, but like I said, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is actually use books, right? All I need to do is raise this up. I don't do anything fancy. I can take some books, and what I want to do is make the light at least equal to, if not higher, than his head level. That's really the goal here. Now, most speed lights will allow you to tilt down a tiny bit, but not much, so we don't want to go too high with it. So let's just see what difference that makes. I'm going to kind of do this, and let's see. And again, I'm in TTL right now. Right, we can see already that's nicer, right? We have a nicer light there, and you can change its position slightly. I go like this. Obviously, you can move your subject as well. But if we want to get something light on the other side of his face, we can kind of move it like that. And we can really kind of just move this around to get it. His nose is a little bit big. I do get that question sometimes, like how do you deal with somebody who has a big nose? So, there he is, looking good. We get that little sparkle in his eye right there, right? Little catch light. Now, I'm shooting at f4, so the tip of his nose is out of focus, but, that's fine for me. What we can do now is we can add some fill if we want. I only have one light though, right? So aluminum foil, right? This is, hopefully most people have something like this around. You can also use some kind of white card. I'm going to use silver though for now. And I'm just going to hold this. And I'm just using live view on my camera. It's a mirrorless camera, so I can kind of see. So I don't get it in the shot. Because remember, with reflectors, you want to get them in as close as possible without getting them in the shot. And now we've got a little fill on that side of his face, right? So we can see now that we're getting some light over there, and that looks pretty good. It's still a little low, I think, for my taste. So I think I'm going to raise the light a tiny bit more. And let's see. Again, we may run into a wall here where if I raise it too much, it's going to end up just shooting past him. So let's try without the fill, and let's see what we get. Okay, no, that's working pretty well. I might even go a little bit higher. And by the way, notice, guys, that on the background, I might need more books. On the background, it's kind of dark, and that's because of the angle of my light, right? I'm basically pointing my light away from the background and more or less just at my subject. There we go. That's kind of almost like a Rembrandt light, right? So there you go, Rembrandt light. Look at a little dust on his eye. That's not terrible. Now let's do a little fill, a little Rembrandt with fill. See if we can get the little light in there. Yeah, there we go. That comes up nicely. And there we go, right? That's just using the books to get it into place. But you know, this is still a very hard light. And hard light is nice to get texture, but it's not necessarily what we want for our subject. What we generally want when making a portrait, which we are, is a softer light source. So I can do it a few different ways, but really to make a light softer, you need to make it bigger. So let's look at a few things to do that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is instead of pointing the light directly at him, so using the light itself as my source, I'm gonna bounce it, right? Bounce the light, it's gonna make it bigger. So I'll put my light here facing away from him and kind of up because again, we wanna have the light come from above. I'm gonna take this same piece of aluminum foil that I had before, and I'm just gonna hold it for now. And basically the light's gonna bounce into the aluminum foil and then come back on down to Uncle Leo. And because we are, using TTL, it's gonna adjust exposure automatically. Yeah, that's pretty nice, right? That looks pretty darn good. It's soft. I don't have any fill anymore, of course, so it's still shadowy on that side. Let me move it over here. Maybe do a little bit more of a beauty light from the front, right? Notice too, the background is now lit as well. Background's lit because, there we go, right? It's soft and it's also specular because it's silver, so you're getting that kind of nice highlight pop. And we've got nice light around his face. And again, I could use more tin foil, aluminum foil to fill in, or I think what I'm gonna do is take my books, I'm gonna see if I can get a little bouncing on this side, because I am still coming from one side. Let's see if we can do this. One good thing about using aluminum foil is obviously it's bendable. So I'm gonna bend it like this, so it'll stay. Get a nice little lip on it, right? Don't need a lot. Just need enough to make it flat there and then put some weight on there. Okay, so that's gonna end up being my fill. It's not gonna be a super lot, but it'll give me a little bit. And of course, now you're probably saying, well, what are you gonna use for your key? I have, of course, like any good Adorama photographer, I have Brooklyn Reflector. This is just actually, I was doing something with foam board. I actually have this at my house. If you don't have this, a mailer, anything big and white, you could hold a blanket. I mean, there's lots of things you could do. So I'm just gonna basically use this like this. Again, I'm bouncing the light into it, boom, with some fill. And now we've got basically kind of a nice, even, beautiful shot, not using any light stands, using a single flash, using TTL, and making this nice portrait. You know, and as we always talk about, a large source like this, I'm not going to be able to keep it off the light off the background at this point. So you'd only be able to get the background dark if you wanted that look by moving everything way away or putting a black background there, I guess. Okay, let's try something more stylistic. Okay, guys, so I have some wine bottles here. I've been saving these for this. I washed the labels off of them, and actually some of the soap kind of stayed on it and made it kind of funky. So I don't know if you can really see that, but I left that on there because I thought it'd be kind of interesting. And what I'm going to do is clearly, I mean, I don't have any gels, right? So clearly shooting light through something is going to, that's colored is going to change the color of it. So this should make it warm and goopy. I have 3 of them. I kind of lined them up and put them at a certain height to get it kind of where I wanted. So let's just see what we get here. This, again, I'm in TTL, so I'll pressure move this. Yeah, and I get exactly what you would expect. This warmish kind of funky light color. You know, and again, I could probably bounce a little light back in. Let's see if that does something. Yeah, a little bit, right? So we're kind of where we started, but with color. And that's fine. But I think it could be, and actually if you notice on the background, you know, it's not perfect anymore. It's kind of got some interesting vibe to it. We can mix this up and change it around a lot of different ways. Let's just try to, I'm going to raise this up a little bit, thinking like if I point this up, it's going to hit the tops of the bottles and then kind of come down. So we should get a different vibe. Let's see how much that changes it. Oh yeah, see, it's similar, but the angle definitely changes slightly. See that? So now that we have that, I think I should be able to take this, right? Because some of that light's scooping past. I'm going to try to knock some of the non-color light back down onto Uncle Leo's face. Yeah, see? Now we've got essentially like cleaner light. It's still a little bit warm, but like cleaner light on his face, and then the rest of it kind of falls off into some color, and we have some interest on the background. I mean, if you compare that to, you know, some of the earlier stuff like super clean, right? You know, or even this one that's a little bit more moody, right? We're looking at, you do have more light on the background clearly, but you have a very similar look with just kind of that, that way of bouncing it. And we can do all kinds of experiments with this, putting all kinds of, you could put your bottles at different distances. You could almost double it up maybe. Let's see if that stays. Yeah, let's see what happens there. And all of this will change the look, you know? So that's just the bottle. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Some kind of white light starting to creep into the background. So let's do this, but add our bounce again. Oh yeah, see, there we go. Now we're cleaning it up a bit. And of course I could use the white bounce as well. I'm using the silver just to maximize it. And also because the silver I can kind of twist a little bit, so I'm getting less on the background because I don't want to wash the background out. Yeah, that one's going to give more. See how that washed the background out with the white? That's the reason why. The white's spreading it more, but it's also larger, so it's not allowing me to shape it. You notice with the aluminum foil, I can kind of shape it and give myself a little bit more control over to where it falls. Keeping as much as possible off the background. So that's kind of neat. You know, that's pretty cool to do it that way. I have one other kind of glass thing I want to try, which is this. This is actually from a thing of beans. So let's see what that does. Okay, guys, so I put the kind of, I'm making like a lantern, if you will. You know, I like my lantern lights. So I'm shooting the light up into the brown kind of glass jar. I put this aluminum foil around the edge because the top of the jar is not quite the same size as the flash, so I didn't want to lose any light, you know, white light. I mean, I don't have to take a picture to know what this is going to do, right? It's going to just make a very warm kind of light. So let's see what it does. Oh, okay. So that's quite dark. So, you know, I'm using TTL. TTL doesn't always know what the heck is going on. Let's just see. It could be the flash is at full power too. No, it's not. There's more power left in the flash. So, I mean, you can use exposure compensation, but for this, I'm just going to switch to manual. And I know that I have 1 stop and 3/10 left in the flash. I'm just going to go full power and see if this is even going to work. If not, I'll have to make adjustments to my camera settings. Okay, that's actually not bad. It's dark, but I think it's more dark because of the color than anything else. Just because I can, and because I know that I got room to move here, I'm just going to bring my ISO up 1 stop. Because remember, I was about 3 stops underexposed in this light in here, so I can easily do that without hurting anything. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's interesting. It's almost like using a chocolate gel. And what's interesting about this, or fun about this, is look at how kind of, because it's a lantern, the light's kind of going everywhere. So it's wrapping around just beautifully. So it's actually very, very nice light on his face. Let me bring a reflector in just to see if that adds anything beneficial to the shot. Oh, yeah, look at that. That's actually pretty darn nice. So if you liked this light, but you didn't like the color of it, you could probably, you know, reduce the amount of warmth. But I wouldn't hold my breath. You can get rid of all of it very easily. Yeah, actually, then it just kind of looks dark. So I wouldn't do that. I just tried to white balance against that. You either like it warm or you don't, you know, for this, I think. But that's kind of fun, right? Thinking about photo tools that we use, like lanterns and things like that. I'm just kind of messing around here. And again, that's just the thing of beans. You know, you can do so many things with stuff you have around the house. You just have to kind of think about what it is that your normal lighting tools do, and then see what might work with what you've got. And again, this is just a simple flash on TTL, no light stands. I'm just using things I have. You could use, if you only had clear bottles, like let's say that you have water bottles, you could get some food coloring or something to that effect to put, you know, some color into the bottles and shoot those through for gels. Well, I think I'll try that actually. That seems like a really fun thing to do. You can definitely mix it up. You could use anything really that's color. Like here's this is honey. You know, here's a jar of honey. So, I mean, if I shot, this might be too dense, but we'll see. You know, if I were to shoot through the jar of honey, going back to TTL, you know, in theory, I should get like warm light. Oh yeah, I mean, it doesn't, obviously I'd have to make it look nicer, but look at how warm that light is coming through the honey. That's almost like a sunset shot. Okay guys, being inspired by that kind of sunset feel, I decided to kind of mess around. I pulled out one more thing, a mirror, right? A lot of us have mirrors, so mirrors are super useful. Again, I'm using books. I've got the flash basically half being going through the honey jar and half, you know, kind of shooting past like we did before with the other glasses. And what I basically did was I just stood here, so the flash was like in my face, and I moved the mirror. So I'm experimenting a little bit. I shot a couple, so the mirror is grabbing it, and then I'm just going to kind of bounce it down onto him. And again, I'm in TTL, so in theory, yeah, there we go. Let's see if I tilt it up a little bit this way. Depending on how you tilt the mirror, it's going to change the look. Yeah, see there, that's more on his head and less on his nose. So somewhere in the middle is probably good. Yeah, there we go. It's dark and moody and kind of fun, but we have his eyes are sticking out. He has that beautiful glow on his hair. You know, there he is, you know, Uncle Leo walking off into the sunset. So hopefully this inspires you. Let me see what you guys can do with common household things. Get some glassware, fill it with water, use honey or colored glass. Shoot a shot for me. Make it either a portrait or still life and post it online. Make sure you tag Adorama and hashtag it create no matter what. And we'll take a look at them and we'll see what you guys are doing so that everybody can just keep on creating and keep on growing during this period. So thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And again, make sure that you're tagging everything with Adorama and also hashtagging create no matter what.